Parikshit Maharaj's interest and curiosity was aroused. And so he asked that question. And Shukadev Goswami goes on to describe very nicely that these two sons of Kuvera, they were actually very elevated souls. In fact, because of their father's association, they were actually elevated to the position where they could actually enter the Mount Kailash abode of Lord Shiva. They could actually take his association. And it is not easy to take association of Lord Shiva. It's a very important point. And therefore, even though that these two boys were fairly young, still their father was a very great devotee, and he was a very great presiding deity of wealth, and therefore these two boys attained a very prestigious situation. So what happened, Bhagavatam says, is because they attained such a situation, they became very proud. And because they became very proud, they forgot one very important thing, that whatever great situation comes to us as a fortune, that is actually coming from Krishna. That is why the residents of Vrindavan, when they were caught by the rains of Indra in Govardhan Leela, they actually chanted Krishna, Krishna, Mahabhaga. They said Krishna, Krishna, Mahabhaga. In other words, Krishna, you are the most fortunate one, and Krishna is the source of our fortune. You see the point? One who is fortunate himself, then only he can become source of fortune. If you are misfortunate, unfortunate yourself, how can you be the source of fortune to others? People will stay away from you. My God, if you walk with this person, you get an accident. If you walk with this person, you fall sick. Like that. But Krishna is not like that. So therefore, it is so nicely stated here that actually these two boys, they had great prestige, but they turned it into what we call false prestige. There is a difference between real prestige and false prestige. Real prestige is like ego, and false prestige is false ego. Everyone who's born into this material world, if you read the third canto, Sankhya Yoga, one of the constitutional nature of the living entity is that the living entity has an ego. But this ego is not false, because actually when we are created by Krishna, our ego means that we are always eternally subordinate to Krishna. That is real ego. Unfortunately, when we forget that we are subordinate to Krishna, then the problem becomes that we develop false ego. So Nalakuvara and Manigriva, in the beginning, because they had good association of their father, they had good association of Lord Shiva, they were actually in a very good position. And they should have taken advantage of that position and elevated themselves spiritually. But they did not. And they became very much falsely proud of what they had. And so they took advantage of the fact that they could wander in the Mandakini river and Kailash mountain, and there they became very degraded. They would drink a beverage known as Varuni. You all know Varuni actually, right? Varuni is very famous because Lord Balaram would sometimes drink it in the forests of Vrindavan. And if you remember, for Balaram Jayanti, we will always offer Lord Balaram Varuni. Now when Lord Balaram takes Varuni, everything is spiritual. You and I take Varuni, that's a different story. But because it is offered to Krishna, after that on Balaram Jayanti, nobody becomes drunk after taking Varuni. But these two boys, they were drinking this beverage to the point where they were completely intoxicated. And therefore Bhagavatam said they did not know what to do, they did not know what to say, and they were just wasting their time with women, frolicking in the lake, and very often because they were in a drunken stupor, they were not even putting clothes on. They were smelling the flowers all around them, and Bhagavatam says their eyes were rolling in intoxication. And so one time they entered into the lake of the Mandakini river. And this Mandakini river, Bhagavatam says, is very beautiful. It is like a garden of lotus flowers, and the two sons would enjoy. And they thought themselves to be like two male elephants. And they thought that all the ladies around them were like the she-elephants. So they became very, very proud. Now, at that time when they were proud, Bhagavatam tells us something very interesting happened. In Bhagavatam, if you look at the chapter 10.10.5 of Srimad Bhagavatam, you will see that there is a very important shloka here. In this shloka, it is stated, Yadrichaya cha devarishi. Now, Yadrichaya is very important. In many parts of Bhagavatam, the word Yadrichaya means by the providence of the Lord. In other words, by the arrangement of Krishna. Yadrichaya. Here I don't know what it means. Yeah, that's nicely stated. By chance, while wandering all over the universe. Now this chance appears to the material person to look like chance. But actually it is anything but chance. It is actually the opportunity given by Krishna. So these two boys, suddenly they were bathing and all, and Maharaj Parikshit is told by Shukadeva Goswami, by some auspicious opportunity for the two boys. See, auspicious opportunity. Who came along? The great sage Devarishi Narada. And he appeared before them by chance. We say by chance, but that chance is Krishna. That's very important. Anything that appears very coincidental is actually not coincidental. It is actually Krishna. Because when you notice in the world, sometimes things happen by coincidence and we think, how is it that it happens? But it is Krishna's hand. And so, Narada appeared before them, but he saw them intoxicated. And when he saw them intoxicated and their eyes were rolling, and they had come out without any clothes on, he could understand their situation. Now, one very important point that this chapter is really about is the value of the association of a devotee. Very important. We should always not underestimate that. Sometimes we think that we can perform devotional service and we can stand on our 2 feet. It is necessary. Some level of standing on our 2 feet is very necessary. But Bhagavatam tells us, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Sashtra Kaya, Tava Matra Sadhu Sange Sarva Siddhi Haya. It's a very important verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. And there, Mahaprabhu says so nicely that actually wherever there are great devotees, that Sadhu Sangha is there, then we will actually develop in devotional service. So, Narada Muni gave them his Sadhu Sangha. It was a very awkward Sadhu Sangha. Because imagine if you go for a house program and your hosts are all drunken. What are you going to do? They're supposed to welcome you for Damodar Leela, but they're drunk too much Varuni. So what do you do then, right? You either walk out and say, no program today, you'll cancel it, or you go on with it. Now Narada could have walked away and thought, why am I sitting down with these two drunken fools? Why am I wasting my time? Let me go and speak about Krishna with others. He could have done that. But he didn't. He didn't. And so what did he do was, when he saw that actually these two boys were this way, he became very compassionate. Now this compassion is coming from a devotee, but the source of this compassion is Krishna. That is very important. There's another important shloka actually that is always quoted. Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jiva Guru Krishna Prasade Paya Bhakti Lata Bija. This is also found in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And it is stated so nicely that according to all our karmas, we are all living entities. So therefore, according to each of our karmas, we are wandering throughout the universe. Some of us are being elevated to the upper planetary systems. Some of us will go to the lower planetary systems. And out of these millions of wandering entities, one who is very fortunate will get an opportunity, Yadrichaya, will get an opportunity to associate with a bona fide spiritual master. And that person's devotional creeper will then grow. So Narada Muni fulfilled that point in Chaitanya Charitamrita. His Sadhu Sangha is so powerful. He appeared in the gardens to give these two sons of Kuvera the seed of devotional service. That's what he did. When he came, that is what he wanted to do. And Prabhus and Matajis, that should be our mood. Wherever we go, and whoever, in whatever relationships we are, maybe we are entangled sometimes. Sometimes we are very familiar with each other in relationships also. But even if there is familiarity, even if people don't treat you well, even if they don't seem to be, respecting you, that is not our consideration. Our consideration is there an opportunity for us to plant the seed of devotional service? If we can do that, and that person benefits, then what is wrong in tolerating? You see the point? You must remember that we are today here in this center because someone tolerated us for a long time. Someone was patient with us. Someone prayed for us. And that is why we are here today. That is actually Guru Krishna Prasade Paya Bhakti Lata Bija. It is the mercy of the spiritual master. Now when these two naked young men saw Narada, instead of becoming very, very, polite and everything, what happened was they actually behaved very intoxicated. They didn't know what to do. The ladies who came out, they put on clothes and they stood there ashamed and they covered their bodies with garments. But the two sons of Kuvera, they were brazen about it. And Bhagavatam said they did not even refuse. They refused to put on anything and they remained naked before Narada. Now when the two sons were there and they were standing that way, Narada understand that the reason why they were standing in that way was not only because they were drunk. See, becoming drunk and frolicking in the lake of Mandakini river was the symptom. The disease was their false prestige. Sometimes externally we perform something. For example, if somebody is eating meat. Now, eating meat is the symptom, but the disease is a proclivity towards violence. You see the point? It's very important. So therefore, when someone performs an action, very often that action is a symptom, but the disease is deeper. So Narada is a perfect spiritual doctor. He saw the symptom, but he didn't judge them. When you enter and see a doctor in the clinic, and you say, "Doctor, I have cold, I have bad flu and everything," does the doctor say, "You're hopeless, what is this, useless lifestyle you're having"? Does he do that? Then you won't have patience, isn't it? Nobody will come back. Doctor is very professional. The doctor looks at the patient's symptoms, but he doesn't judge the patient by the symptom. Am I right? He doesn't. If he did, he'll be a very bad doctor. He doesn't judge it. If he judged it, he can never treat the patient. Isn't it true? Because when you judge people by their actions, you can't treat them. You will be either put off by them or you walk away from them. But the expert devotees don't do that. What they do is they see and understand the symptom and they diagnose the problem. So Narada diagnosed the problem and he understood that the reason why these two boys were intoxicated was actually they were intoxicated by their opulence and their false prestige and their pride. Because they thought, father has so much money in the bank, right? We are very rich. We don't have to worry. And therefore they were very intoxicated. So this is very important. And then he spoke to them. Now, the purports tell us that actually in the beginning, Narada appeared angry with them. This is important. And what he would say now is that he would curse them. But we should never forget this very important point. Every time a devotee becomes upset with another devotee, that upsetness is not a material thing. When great devotees chastise us or they feel that you're not doing something right, we should be careful and not think that their chastisement is something ordinary. Very often, they mean well. And therefore, they actually mean to purify us. Actually, Narada only wanted one thing for these two boys. He wanted to make sure that these two boys will be able to see Krishna somehow or another face to face. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, one of the great acharyas in our sampradaya, he gives the nice example. He says, if there is a child and the child needs to take some medicine to cure his disease, but the child is asleep. Now the father is trying to wake the child, but the child cannot wake up. Just, in sleep. And therefore the child cannot take the medicine. What will the father do? The father pinches the child. And when he pinches the child wakes up because the child gets upset, isn't it? Then the father quickly gives the medicine. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, that is what Vaishnavas do. Of course, after this, don't go pinching people around. Right? At Prasadam, when you're standing next to someone, don't pinch them, Prabhu, I'm giving you mercy. That's not the point. The point is to wake us up to reality. And that's what Narada Muni wanted to do. So Narada Muni then decided, I really have to do something for these two boys. And so he said, among all the attractions of material enjoyment, there are so many attractions. There are women and men, there is power, there is so many things around us. But he said one thing, the attraction of wealth bewilders the intelligence of even the most great and saintly persons. This is very important. That's why Kunti Mata also said in Kunti Mata's prayers, Janma Aishwarya Shruta Sridhir. Isn't it? Aishwarya means whatever opulence you have, whatever high birth that you have, In this case, Nalakuvara and Manigriva, at least they had two. They were very highly born. Kuber was their father, right? Doesn't get better than that. Then they were also Aishwarya. They had so much wealth. Their father was not like Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva was sitting in cemetery. So if these two boys were the sons of Lord Shiva, they wouldn't feel so prestigious. But Kubera was living in a palace, so they were very prestigious. So Janma, Aishwarya, Shruta, the boys were also highly educated actually. They were very, very well versed in what they were doing. And Shribir, Bhagavatam tells us actually they were very good looking also. So they had all these opulences. But the problem with all of this is, Edamana Madana Pumana. Madaha means you become intoxicated. When you have these opulences, it's very easy for us to think that we are of a higher grade. Actually, even amongst devotees, we have to be careful. Supposing we are a devotee with, very educated, or we are very good looking, or we have very high birth, or we may be also very rich. If we are not careful subtly, we can also feel very proud. We can feel that way, And what will happen is, other people seeing us, they become envious of us. That can also be a problem. Sometimes it's not the problem of the rich devotee. Sometimes it's the problem of those who don't have the riches. They look at someone and say, oh my God, this is a $300 sari. Too rich. And you become envious. Right? The interesting thing with men is our dhotis are very cheap. Isn't it? And our kurtas are hopeless actually, most of the time. So for men, nobody's going to compare all these things because it's not in that category. But for ladies, it's very different. Very different. I remember one Mataji telling me years ago, Prabhu, this Mataji comes with, this watch and that gold. I said, Mataji, how do you know all this? What are you doing in the center? And she became very embarrassed because she realized she had exposed herself. So you see, even in the devotee community, we have to be very careful. Very careful. My Guru Maharaj used to say, there was one devotee, she went to see my Guru Maharaj. She spent 3 days with him. And Maharaj called me and said, Devaki, this lady is suffering from one very interesting disease. I said, Maharaj, he said, it is the disease of pride. I said, okay. But I said, Maharaj, she's not very rich. He said, it's not the richness that's making her proud. She keeps telling me that, Maharaj, I'm very humble. I have nothing. I'm very simple. I can live anywhere. I can do anything. And Maharaj said, she's very proud of her humility. And I thought, this is very interesting. This is really interesting. So you see, false prestige doesn't mean you have to be rich. False prestige can mean, Prabhu, I'm waking up every morning for Mangala Arati. I'm at a certain level. That's false prestige. It can hit us anytime. So we have to be very careful. And that's why Narada Muni said that the greatest attraction of material enjoyment is our riches. Not just money in the bank, but whatever Krishna has given us, some tejas we have. Some of us are good at singing, some good at dressing deities. That tejas, if we become attached to it, we think we're very rich. Isn't it? You notice how in the spiritual world, sadhus become very proud of the fact that they are very sadhu. Isn't it an irony? It's a danger. It's a danger. And being a sadhu in the spiritual world today can potentially be a multi-million-dollar concern. If you know what I mean. Right? It can. It can. So we have to be very careful. And Narada Muni said that. And now he turned to the boys and he asked them a very important question. It's in text 11 of this chapter. And this question is a very relevant question for all of us. This is what he says. While alive, does this body belong to the employer, to the self, to the father, to the mother, or the mother's father? Does it belong to the person who takes it away by force, or to the slave master who purchases it, or to the sons who burn it in the fire? Or, if this body is not burned, does it belong to the dogs that eat it? Among the many possible claimants, who is the rightful claimant of the body? Not to ascertain this, but instead to maintain the body by sinful activities is not good. This is very nice point. What Narada Muni is saying is that there is a value to the human body. But the value is that it doesn't belong to anyone. It ultimately belongs to Krishna. When Sanatana Goswami wanted to anybody, sometimes we treat people in such a way, we think their body belongs to us. They can't walk 2 meters. They can't walk 2 meters they walk, they have to report to you. Sometimes we are like that. But we don't realize that the body belongs to Krishna. So this is a very important point. Then he goes on. In text 14, he says a very nice point. He says, if you see their faces, one whose body has been pricked by pins can understand the pain of others who are pinpricked. Isn't it true? If you have been pinpricked, you can understand somebody else's pain if they are pinpricked. And when you realize the pain for me, when I'm pricked by the pin, is the same for you when you're pricked by the pin, then that person will understand the pain. Otherwise, they cannot understand the pain. Why is Narada saying this? He's saying this because he understands that every living entity, without exception, is suffering. And these two boys think that they are not suffering, but they are also suffering. This is very important. We should never think, Prabhus and Matajis, that I am the only person suffering in the world, that my position is unique, that no one else is suffering except me, that I have it bad and nobody else has it bad. No. If you have been pricked by the pin, you will know how painful it is for the other person. It's how we tolerate it that is most important. So Narada Muni did not become angry with these two boys. He tried to understand them. And this is very important. As Vaishnavas, whenever we see something that is wrong with a devotee, we try to treat the symptom by understanding the root of the symptom, the disease. Once we understand the disease, we will be able to serve them better. Why? Because we are also afflicted by the same disease. So Narada says, the best thing I can do for these two boys is to take away all their riches, take away their high birth, take away their beauty, their education, take away all the wealth that their father has. Because when a poverty-stricken man is in difficulty, and this is very important, a poverty-stricken man, when he goes through compulsory austerities, then it purifies him. Isn't it true? When Krishna takes everything away from us, very often we become very humble. We have no choice, because there's nothing for us to be proud of anyway. And that becomes very purifying. So Narada taught, when such a person is always hungry, no food, such a poverty-stricken man becomes weaker and weaker. And having no potency, that man will become more and more stricter and have more faith and depend more and more on the Lord. See the point of Narada? So Narada decided, Janma, Aishwarya, Shruta, Shrivi. And therefore he said, since these two persons have drunk the liquor named Varuni, and they are unable to control their senses, and they have been blinded by the pride of their celestial opulences, and they have become attached to women, I will relieve them of their false prestige. This is very nice. This is the mercy of Narada. Now, when he said that, right, he therefore, in his mind, he was already thinking, how do I bring them to become devotees? And so now he says something very important. In text 20 and 22, Narada makes this important point. And this is the framing of the chapter. He says, these two young men, Nalakuvera and Manigriva, they, by great fortune, they were the sons of the great Devata, Kuvera. But now, because of madness and false prestige, they are so fallen, they cannot understand the value of human life. Therefore, better they become trees. Why? Because trees don't have to worry about Janma, they don't have to worry about Aishwarya, they don't have to be good looking or educated, right? Trees are just trees. And most importantly, they don't have to wear clothes. And that is very good, because Nalakuvera and Manigriva did not like to wear clothes. So Narada said, now I pray that you will become trees. So low is your consciousness that you should receive the bodies of trees. This will be a proper punishment. Now the word punishment is used here. And some people think Narada must be very cruel. Why couldn't he have just why couldn't he have just spoken to both of them and spoken 7 days, 7 nights on Bhagavatam, and then the two boys will become delivered? Somebody asked me a question last time when I took this chapter. He said, Prabhu, isn't there a better way to do this? Narada could have just sat down. He spent 9 months speaking about Bhagavatam with Prahlad Maharaj, and he became devotee. He didn't have time to speak to them on Bhagavatam. Was he in a rush? Is that why he told them, okay, you become trees, finish, end of story. Let me move on now. Got too many cases in front of me. But the point is, no one can understand the mind and the heart of a Vaishnava. No one. This is very important. In the 9th canto, in one of the purports where Durvasa Muni is being spoken to by Vishnu, Prabhupada writes there, a Vaishnava knows exactly what he's doing. Very important point. A Vaishnava knows exactly what he's doing. And therefore, right, nobody has the right to question the business of a Vaishnava. Narada Muni is one such Vaishnava. He knows exactly what needs to be done. And therefore, by the providence of Yadrichaya, he came. And he now cursed the two boys to become trees. But that is not the end of it. He says after they become trees, it's here, right? After they become trees, where is it? Yeah. This would be proper punishment. Nonetheless, after they become trees and until they are released, by my mercy, they will have remembrance of their past sinful activities. Now this, very seldom we have known about in this Leela. We always speak of them becoming trees and we pray Krishna will deliver them. That's what Narada says. But Narada said one more important thing. He said that by my mercy, they will remember their previous life. Why is that important? Because when you can remember what mistakes you had done previously, then the chances of you repenting is better. And that's why he gave the two boys the mercy of remembering their past life. Therefore, just imagine how powerful Narada is. Normally we think only Krishna can give us our previous birth memory. But now we understand from Shastra, even a pure devotee can do that for us. Imagine how powerful he must be. And so he said, by my mercy, they will have remembrance of their past sinful activity. And now he says, by my special favor. Again, it is coming from him. By my special favor, what will happen? After 100 years, by the measurement of the Devatas, that's a long time, by the way, they will be able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, face to face, and they will revive their real position as devotees. Now, two things are very important in this point. The first is that Narada was not punishing them. He was actually giving them a chance to purify themselves. That's why they had to wait for 100 celestial years. Actually, Narada himself would not have wanted them to wait so long. But our Shastras tell us a very important thing. When you offend a devotee of the Lord, actually the devotee doesn't feel any offense. They may feel some hurt sometimes they're upset. We saw even Srila Prabhupada would feel hurt sometimes when his disciples behaved in a bad way. But they never mean ill for others. But when Krishna sees you have offended a devotee, Krishna will then make sure that devotee must pay. Krishna will not let go of that devotee or non-devotee. So if you have offended a Vaishnava, that is more serious than offending Krishna. That doesn't mean you have a field day trip offending Krishna, right? But offending Krishna, Krishna is so kind, he'll say, never mind, I'll give you a chance. But if you upset my devotee, then I will not give you a chance. So this 100 celestial years, even though Narada said you should take 100 years to be purified, from Krishna's point of view, it was 100 years of suffering as trees and not being delivered because of how you behaved to Narada Muni. You see the point? So it's a very important point that we must remember. And after saying that, Narada spoke that way and he returned to his ashram in Narayana ashram, and Nalakuvera and Manigriva became twin Arjuna trees. And Arjuna trees are still found in Vrindavan. Not many, but they became twin Arjuna trees. Now it doesn't mean the next time you see a twin Arjuna tree in Vrindavan, it means that Nalakuvara and Manigriva are still there. Right? They've been delivered. But the trees exist still. That's an important point. Now, the Supreme Personality of Godhead then decided in this chapter to fulfill the truthfulness of the words of his greatest devotees, like Narada. And so, he slowly, after being tied by his mother Yashoda, if you remember, he then decided to slowly crawl towards Manigriva and Nalakuvara. But to everyone else, it appeared like an ordinary boy just crawling towards two trees at the end of Nanda Maharaj's courtyard. And as he crawled, the motor, which was lengthwise, right, vertical, it actually turned and it started rolling with him. So Krishna was moving. Now, why this verse is very important? This verse is actually in text 24. Krishna performed this pastime to fulfill the truthfulness of his devotee. Please remember that. He did not perform this pastime to deliver the two boys. That's a byproduct. Delivering them was a byproduct. But fulfilling the truthfulness of the statement made by his devotee, that was his primary responsibility. And why? Because Narada, like all great devotees, they have one quality. They are known as Drita Harihi. They hold on very tightly. Drita means to hold. Dhritarashtra means land, and Drita. So Dhritarashtra means one who's holding on very tightly to his land. What a name, huh? Imagine when he was born, he was given this name. What a prophetic name actually, right? Dhritarashtra. But instead of being Dhritarashtras, we must learn to be Dritahari. Dritahari means one who holds on tightly to the lotus feet. If you can't hold the lotus feet, you hold on to the dhoti at least. But you must hold on to Lord Hari. That is very important. You know, in Bhagavatam, famous verse 2.634, Srimad Bhagavatam, Narada there is asking Krishna, my dear father, he's asking Brahma. He says, Brahma, how is it, that you have created this beautiful material creation? And how is it that you have so much stages to do everything? And how is it that whatever you say always comes to pass? Narada is asking his father. And so Brahma replies in 2.634. He says, Na bharati me, you can sing with me. Na bharati me anga vrisho upalakshate navai kvachin me manaso mrishagatihi na me rishikani patanti asatpate yanme hridao kantavyata drito harihi. The meaning is very beautiful. O Narada, now Brahma replies, because I have caught hold of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, Prabhu, can you move up? Let's see the word to word. Slowly. I want to see the Drita Hari and the lower part. Rishikani, yes, you see Autkantyavata, by great earnestness. Now you look at the translation. It's not there. That's why you have to read word to word. You miss the word to word, you don't know what Dritahari means. In the translation, it's just, I'm holding, right? I caught hold of the lotus feet of the personality of God with great zeal. This word great zeal, there's another word given up there, with earnestness, right? So zeal actually means that you do something with a lot of your heart. Earnestness actually means that you do it with eagerness. So they are two different words, but they are used to describe the same mood of a devotee. You see the point? That's why Sastrically don't miss Prabhupada's word to word. So Brahma says, I've caught hold of the lotus feet of Krishna with great zeal, and now we know with great earnestness. And therefore, three things happen. One, whatever I have said has never proved to be false. See? That's why our spiritual masters, if they say something about you, it will come to pass. If they say you will become a pure devotee, it will happen. That doesn't mean tomorrow you just lie on your bed and you say, no, I'll become pure devotee. Finish. End of story. I can drink Varuni. Tomorrow I'll still become pure devotee. No. It means you have to work. You still have to work. Remember, there must be endeavor and there must be mercy. But whatever they say will come to pass. Now, what were the chances of these two boys drinking and delivering and being delivered? Almost zilch. But because Narada wanted them to become that, Krishna fulfilled it. You see? So Krishna always maintains the truth of the statement of his devotees. And this verse is the verse that proves to us the same point. So first thing is the Vaishnava, his statement never goes false. Second, the progress of my mind is never ever deterred. Very nice point. You know how I understood this point? My Guru Maharaj told me the progress of my mind is never deterred. It means actually devotees may appear to be growing old. Sometimes they may appear to be even having degeneration of the mind. They may have dementia, they may have Alzheimer's, they may have all these different mind degenerating diseases. But as far as Krishna consciousness is concerned, the progress of their mind is never deterred. Never deterred. This is very important. And we know of so many devotees who have been struck by dementia, but somehow they never forget the most essential thing. I saw a video that was taken from a temple where one devotee was suffering dementia. So the son is asking her, do you know who I am? She said, I don't know. Do you know who he is, the husband? I don't know. Do you know who the children are? I don't know. Then he pointed to the picture of Krishna. He said, do you know who he is? And she said, Krishna. Imagine. Krishna made her forget everybody, which is not so bad really. And he made her only remember him. And there was another lady who was serving long time pujari in America, one of the temples. And she suffered from dementia. And her dementia was in such a way that every day she was continuously chanting Krishna's names. When they asked her why you are continuously chanting Krishna's names, she said, because I haven't finished chanting 16 rounds. She couldn't remember. She thought, I haven't finished. 16 rounds, haven't finished. Krishna made her forget she had finished. What happens to us 16 rounds? Haribol. That's it. I don't want to see the bead bag. Don't even want to look at it. Next morning I'll look at it. But Krishna gave her the benediction that her progress of her mind is never deterred. This Bhagavatam verse is millions of years old. But it is relevant even today. Can you find anything in the world that can be so relevant? It's amazing, isn't it? Never underestimate the power of Bhagavatam. And the third point is so nice. Nor are my senses ever degraded by the temporary attachment to matter. So sometimes we may have some attachments. All of us have attachments. It's natural. But despite the challenges of these attachments, our devotional service is continuing. Isn't it true? We have our family. You all know the dynamics of your family. You know sometimes how your children hurt you. You hurt children. Your wife says something. Your husband says something. Daughter-in-law, mother-in-law. All these dynamics only you know. But despite all these temporary attachments, you are somehow going on in devotional service. How is that possible? Because you are Dhrita Hari. You see? So that is why in this Leela, Krishna came to fulfill Narada. That's why he wanted to crawl. Why? Because Narada has said something which up till now is not true. But I must make it true. Because I must always uphold the great Narada Muni. So you see, this is the greatness of a devotee. And it is stated nicely in Bhagavatam, the plans of a devotee never go in vain. Please remember that. The plans of a devotee never go in vain. And therefore, if you follow their plans, you will never go in vain either. You know what's another name for the word plans? Another name for the word plans is instructions. When a devotee has a plan for you and they tell you, Prabhu, Mataji, do this, do that, this is my plan for you, it's actually an instruction. And that instruction will never go in vain if you follow it. Because they are very powerful. These devotees are very, very powerful. And why are they so powerful? Because of their faithful attachment to the lotus feet of the Lord. Dhrita Hari. So today remember Krishna as Dhrita Hari. What a nice name for Krishna. Dhrita Hari. Don't become Dhritarashtra. That is very important. So anyone who is serious in their heart and their soul about being in touch with Krishna, they will always be infallible in their words and their actions. Narada is infallible. Brahma is infallible. They may have so many challenges, but they never fall because Krishna is always there to prop them up. Therefore, this point is important. You cannot attain Krishna by any amount of mental speculation. All the Janma, Aishwarya, Shruta and Shribir that Nalakuvara and Manigriva had, where did it get them? It got them into the lake of Mandakini, drunk with Varuni. But one earnest prayer from Narada, one moment of association with a great devotee, changed their lives completely. That's why I tell all of you, sometimes your spiritual masters that you're initiated by, they may be thousands of miles away. They may have thousands of disciples. They may look like they're very busy. They may look like they don't even have time for you. But they are pure devotees. And wherever they are always praying for your welfare. And therefore, wherever you are, and in whichever way you are advancing in your devotional service, never forget it's because of their prayers that you are being delivered. Don't be offensive and think my spiritual master doesn't hear me, doesn't see me, doesn't know me. The spiritual master knows exactly what is to be known. And remember, renunciation of a spiritual master without proper bona fide reasons is a great source of spiritual slide. And we should be very careful. These two boys were very fortunate because they did not criticize Narada Muni, but they behaved in a drunken way. Their behavior was very bad, but they were not critical of him. This is very important. It is better to be drunk than to be critical. Don't take this also in the wrong way. But criticism is very dangerous. If we criticize the great devotees, there is no way for us. See, in this case, Nalakuvara and Manigriva will be delivered. Because out of their drunkenness and their false prestige, they were silly boys. But they were delivered by Narada. That is very important. But Shishupal was very different. Shishupal had so many opportunities to praise Krishna. But he continued to criticize Krishna. Krishna could easily have killed him in the first round. But of course, Krishna was very kind and gave his mother the benediction that never mind, let him criticize me 100 times and after that I'll just finish him. And so he waited patiently. He gave Shishupal many opportunities to stop his criticism. But he couldn't. He couldn't. In fact, 100 criticisms came very quickly. Right? Because he couldn't stop criticizing. So be careful. Sadhu Sangha is very important. And therefore, it is so nicely stated. Krishna finally looked at the two boys because the motor had crashed the trees and the boys had come forward. And Krishna says something very nice. In 10:10:25, he says, Devarishi Priyatamo Yat Imao Danadhatmajao Tat Tatha Sada Ishyami Yat Geetam Tan Mahatmana. And the translation is very nice. Although these two young men are sons of the very rich Kuvera, and I have nothing to do with them, Devarishi Narada is my very dear and affectionate devotee. This is the greatness of Krishna. Even though they did not worship Krishna, it didn't matter to him. Narada prayed for them, that's what matters to Krishna. And therefore, even if he doesn't know them, he was willing to accept them by recommendation. So if we really want to go back to the kingdom of God, we must learn to serve the devotees unconditionally. That is very important. Don't serve devotees to get brownie points. You know brownie points? Sometimes we collect certain pounds and points and then we go and get some free gift. Bhakti is not like that. Oh, today I have to serve 10 devotees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, now I'm done. Right? Great punya I get. Tomorrow I serve another 10. Oh, this devotee is very advanced. If I serve him, it's like serving 2 devotees. No, that's not how it is. You have to serve them with your heart and serve them with your love. And don't be critical of devotees. The moment you think you know better than devotees, good luck to your devotional service. This is very clearly stated in Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. And so he said, I am here face to face with you because of Narada. And I will do so for your deliverance. And in the purport is very nicely stated, Nala Kubera and Manigriva had nothing to do with devotional service or even seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face, because this was not an ordinary opportunity. It is not that you are rich, learned or aristocratic that you can see Krishna. No, it is impossible. It's impossible to see Krishna. But because one pure devotee desired that these two boys should see Krishna, it was the favor of a devotee that captured Krishna. This is very important. That's why Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, isn't it? And it's in the purport, I think. He says, Vaishnava Thakura Tomara Kukkara Bhutiya Janaya More Krishna se Tomara Krishna Dite Para. And what does it mean? It means one should desire to become like a dog, strictly following a devotee. This is the mood of a devotee. And this is the mood of Nala Kuvera and Manigriva. This was their fortune. This was their fortune. Now, Krishna delivered them. But now what did they say? Nala Kuvera and Manigriva come to their senses. And in 10:37, they say a beautiful prayer. Anujanihi now bhumans tavanuchara kinkarau darshanam now bhagavata rishe asit anugraha. Anugraha means mercy, right? And anujanihi means may we have the permission. So you see the mood of Nala Kuvera and Manigriva, it changed totally. What did they say? They said, Krishna, we are always servants of your servants. How nicely they say that. Especially Narada Muni. Now give us the permission to leave for our home. It is by your grace and your mercy and the mercy of Narada that we are able to see you face to face. What a beautiful point. So you see the mood changed. Now they ask for permission to go back. They did not think that, oh, just because Narada prayed for us, you came before us, now we got a ticket to go back home. Can we have your permission to go back home? This is what they said. And the reason why they got the permission from Krishna is because of the next verse. And with that, we will round off our time together. In this next verse, you can chant it with me. They say something very beautiful. Now, this chanting is the Brahma Samhita lyric chanting. Okay, so it's not very difficult. Vani gunanu katane shravanau kathayam hastau cha karma sumanastava padayo naha smrityam shirastava nivasa jagat pranamai drishti satam darshanestu bhavattanuna. And see what they say. Henceforward, there's always life and there's always hope in devotional service. You may have been rascal number one, but if Krishna and devotees deliver you, henceforward, you can take up devotional service. And they say, may all our words describe your pastimes. May all our ears engage in receiving the power of your glories. May our hands, our legs, and other senses engage in actions which are pleasing to you, not pleasing to us. And may our minds always think of your lotus feet. May our heads offer obeisances to your different forms. And may our eyes see the forms of Vaishnavas who are not different from you. That's why it is stated, when you see a Vaishnava, be happy that you see a Vaishnava. Smile at least. Have you noticed sometimes, you see devotees, they look so fierce, they look like Narasimhadev. And you think, why? What does it take to smile? A monkey is not coming in front of you. Donkey is not coming in front of you. It's a human being. What is the problem with smiling? Therefore, when a devotee is in front of us, never take that mercy of the devotee for granted. So the curse of Narada Muni turned out to be the greatest favor that can be bestowed. Isn't it true? What looks like a reversal in your life, you have faith. that one day it will turn out to be a blessing. This is your faith in Krishna. This is very important. Now, two things to end we must remember. The first is a very important thing that comes in, let me think. I think it is it's in 1084:31. 1084:31. It's a very important shloka actually. It's quite famous. Sannikasho atra martyanam. You would have heard about it. What it says is, look at the translation. In this world, familiarity breeds contempt. For example, one who lives on the banks of the Ganges might travel to some other body of water to be purified. Isn't it true? Very often that's what happens. You know, we fail to see that a person whom we have known for so long, supposing we are relating with a person like a friend, but that person brought you to Krishna, took care of you, but you treat that person in such a casual way that you don't realize the person's greatness. You don't realize that while the person is tolerating you, tolerating your nonsense, but still the person is relating with you lovingly because he or she is praying for your welfare. The Devatas, they have this problem. And they say it in the 6th canto, 9th chapter, Ya eka nisho nishamaya nijamaya ya naha. Ya eka isho nijamaya ya naha sasaljayema anusjama vishwam. Right? Yes, yeah, I forget the second line, third line, but it will come. Now in this point, the Devatas say, my dear Lord, we have forgotten that you are the source of all our potency. And we think ourselves to be independent of you. You see? Prabhu, is it there? Ya Eka Isho? I think it's 6th canto, 9th chapter. I'm just trying to remember which one it is.
That is the one.
Thank you, Prabhu. Vayam nayasyapi puraha samihitam pashyamalingam prita isha maninaha. And you see, you go down, you will see the translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead who created us by His external potency and by whose mercy we expand the creation of the universe is always situated before us as the super soul. But we cannot see His form. Why? We are unable to see Him because all of us think we are separate and independent. And see the first line of Prabhupada's purport. Wonderful. Here is an explanation of why the conditioned soul cannot see the Supreme Personality face to face. Because we think we are independent and therefore we are separate. So when we become very familiar with Krishna, we think that we are not dependent on Him. We think that emotionally, every which way, we are independent of Krishna. And that is not good. Don't ever take devotees for granted. Don't be so familiar with them that you become contemptuous of the way you behave with them. For a while it will look very nice, but eventually